Welcome back to Jatai Academy. Today I'm going to be sharing with you the most versatile haircut in the entire universe, the Mr. Spock. Now, and I know what you're saying. You're saying that is not the most versatile, but hear me out. I'll show you how to do the haircut, and then I'll explain why it is the most versatile. Let's get started. So my first section, I'm going to start here in the nape. I'm going to go through and taper that in a little bit tighter and fit that in a little cleaner with some scissor over comb. I'm going to use my Jatai Tokyo scissor. I tend to like a long, skinny, pointy, sharp blade when I'm doing my scissor over comb. I feel that it gives me a little bit more, a better ability to get more detailed and fit everything in close like I want. A fatter blade I can't get as tight in, so a skinnier blade I like better. So now I'm going to comb this a little bit to the side, just so when I bring this up and out, I can get a little bit more tension on it. If I comb everything straight down and I come up, some types of hair I don't get as clean of a cut. So by combing it a little bit to the side, when I pick it up, I get a little bit more tension and can get a little bit cleaner scissor over combs. I'll start real close here at the bottom and then just visualize in my mind's eye what type of tapering that I want as I go up and out. Then I'll comb everything down and say, okay, I like those lengths. Now let's go through and clean that up. So at first I did a crude shape, so now I'm going to go through and start refining my shape. So how do I refine my shape? Is I go through and I try to trace the previously cut line that was already there. So I'll go through and do that again. On wet hair, it's going to be a little bit harder to see than if I was to do this on dry hair. The more times that I pass and the more scissor strokes that I apply, potentially the cleaner the cut can be. After I get the center like I want, then I'm going to take a step over to the right. Now I have a guide. The guide is in the center. The first section I didn't have a guide. I was just using the force to cut everything like I want. Now that I have a guide, I'll use that center section as the guide length, and then anything that hangs over off to the side, I will cut a little bit shorter. I want to make sure I don't go through and cut this section shorter or less consistent than I cut in the middle, so I'm going to take a little bit more time as I start to refine that in. Now I'm going to go through and do the next section, and I'll continue to work this over all the way to the ear until I run out of hair. I'll start with a crude cut and then fine-tune my crude shape and fine-tune until I get it as smooth as I can see. Give us a thumbs up, click the subscribe and the notification bell to be notified of future Jatai Academy content. And once I got that dialed in to where I feel that that's good enough while it's wet and I can refine it more when it's dry, once we reach this point, we're going to start working on our layering now. A center part, right down the middle, all the way into the nape. Okay, now from here, I'm taking this and I'm going to go through and head shape layer this all the way into the back. Since I did my Betty Page bangs on this model before, I'm going to use that as my guide, but you don't have to have that. I'm just going to go through and take a flat section of head, and what I mean by that is the section against the head is flat. So that's a flat section. I pull that straight up, oops, cut that straight across. Remove a little piece, take a small piece as my guide. Take my next flat section, hold that up 90 degrees from the head shape where that section is flat. There's my guide, and cut the head shape into it. Tilt the head down to make it more comfortable, a small piece where it's flat. Hold that straight up, there's my guide length, and cut that. Oops. Take a small piece as my guide, my next little flat section. Now if I have a model who has a flat-ish head, then I understand what the optimal head shape is, so I will go through and mimic what that would be as I work back. After I finish that, I will go through and separate that in half and pivoting from the crown, I will now blend this length into my tapered length. Small piece as my guide, so I have the center section as my guide and also the length I'm cutting to. Cut that down and through my next section, hold into the center of both of those two sections. Pin that out of the way, and there we go. And that's looking pretty good. I will go through, remove my center section, and then pivot, adding my next section. So I have my second section and my third section. I will go through and start at the top, take a small piece from the inside as my guide, hold that straight up off the head shape, cut that down and through my next little flat piece. There's my guide from underneath, cut that through, and work that all the way into my taper. And now at this point, I no longer pivot. Once I get to the ear, I will take a parallel section. Small piece is my guide from the middle parting and from the previously cut parting. There's my guide. Cut that through. Small piece as my guide. There's my guide from underneath. Blend that into my tapering. And that's looking pretty good as we go through there. Now I will take the parallel section, use that as my guide, and continue to take parallel sections, working forward until I run out of hair. Starting at the top, there's my guide length from underneath, small piece as my guide, take my next section, there we go, small piece as my guide, working that down and through into my previously cut guide. So I will cut it from the top down and then cut it from the bottom up, just as a cross check or as an opposite check to make sure that my line blends in nice and smooth and I have a nice round beveled shape. Remove the previously cut guide, and then I have my last cut piece parallel. Follow us on your favorite social media at Jatai Feather. Small piece as my guide. Make sure I have enough of my guide from the previously cut section. There we go. Small piece as my guide. Basically, the shape that I'm cutting is a round tapered shape. So it's going to be a little bit longer in the top, and it's going to taper down as it gets to the edges and around the hairline. It's going to taper down really tight in the back, and then on the sides, I'm not going to taper that in. I want to keep that kind of solidish so I can really exaggerate that little Spock point. Since my mannequin head doesn't have a whole lot of sideburn, I am going to go through and cut a little bit of that in. So I'll comb this down, determine where I want it to hit, which is going to be about half of the ear. Start there, get my length cut in. After I get my length cut in, I'll go through, start cutting some of this hair off to reveal the peak over the ear. We want to make sure that his pointy ears are revealed. So I'm taking it from the back, being gentle over the ear, just letting everything fall in its natural fall, and just fine-tuning that shape in from my taper in the back up and over the ear. And I'm going to take my time. I'm not going to try to rush this. This is the very, very important part of this particular cut. If I had decided to modify this and just taper the whole thing in on the side, that's okay. I don't have to spend so much time making sure that my little point is so strong here in the front. But on this particular head of hair that I'm working on, I need to make sure that that's really dialed in. So I'm taking my time, just combing everything down and point cutting my shape in. All right, after we've got our sides dialed in, now let's go through and work on our front. Now, we did some Betty Page bangs earlier, and this was my model for that, so they already have the short bang, but Mr. Spock doesn't have Betty Page bangs, so instead of curving this, I'm going to take my short piece and try to blend that across so it's a straighter line, maybe not as exaggerated of a curve. So we'll start whittling that down a little bit in the middle to cut some of that curve off. All right, here is our finish after we've blown everything dry, and I think we're looking pretty solid here. I do need to go through and clean some things up though. So I want to go through, and the first thing I want to focus on is making sure everything in the back here is glassy, smooth, and seamless in its tapering. So I'm going to go through with my Jatai Tokyo thinning scissor. This is the perfect blending scissor. It removes enough hair that when I need to remove weight, it distributes the weight perfectly. But also, if I just want to retrace what's already there and make sure everything blends, it's perfect for that. So that's what we're going to start with. I'm going to start right in the center. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to put the straight blade on the bottom. All I'm going to do is go through and retrace what's already there. I'm not trying to cut more hair off. I'm just trying to hit the very tips and make sure everything blends glassy smooth by just hitting the tips of the hair. And that's already making that smoother. So just retracing what's already there as I work from the nape all the way up into the crown. Here around the front, just comb everything down in its natural fall, the way it's going to live, and then just take my time and fine-tune this line around the front. The reason that I say that this is the most versatile haircut in the entire universe is that it's fundamentally a classic shape that has been modified into so many different ways. If you take this even shorter and you cut the sideburns off, you have a Caesar. If I let the top get longer, and I take the sides and the back and taper that really, really short, then I have kind of the lad haircut that's very, very popular in Britain. If I let the top and the sides get a little bit longer and have it kind of brushed over, then I end up with a more of a mod kind of bowl cut, a Bieber-ish type of shape. If I let the top get longer and I take the sides and the back really, really short and perm the top, it looks like a modern Edgar that's very, very popular right now. So the basics of this shape make it the most versatile haircut that you can do on any of your masculine clients. Tapering it, rounding the shape, and just keeping your proportions varied and the textures varied, and you can do a lot of different types of haircuts. If you only knew this one haircut, you could modify it to fit a large proportion of the masculine clientele that's available today. Anyway, check out the Jatai Academy. There's all kinds of fantastic information on there that will make you a better hairstylist and barber. Let us know what you'd like to see in the future. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.